Morning, Zev. Good to see you got
Good
on.
morning, Rabbi Green.
We're just getting organized.
I felt bad that person. I wonder how they feel. The person without children, how he feels when he has to see that. You getting bites in the apartment?
Got one or two bids, but not.
She got the ceiling one with A. Fourth floor, 2 students, $425,000.
You're kidding. Where?
One with A.
Fourth floor?
Fourth floor, $425,000. Asking for it.
That's what they're asking. Okay, well, we've already just dropped the price.
How come I barely hear you? I usually hear you very well.
Not what I feel is,
What the market's worth today.
What?
What is the market worth today? You gotta
That's the
at least get the market price.
Can you hear me, Rabbi Green?
What, Zev?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're not loud. Can you hear me?
I hardly hear you.
You can hardly hear me. All right. My sound is up as high as it
That
can go.
sounds better, yes.
All right.
How are you today?
Okay. All right. Today is the 30th, right?
Okay.
Year's almost over.
Okay. That's,
Collective.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm gonna, sorry. I will start learning sponsors. Okay. And good morning. Okay. Learning sponsors. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of great niece Leah Bracha, Isaac and Evelyn Blachler in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. Friends of Leonie Meiselman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanoch. 2 months of learning by Milton Meller, on his second bar mitzvah. A month of learning by Ron and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Fredel Bas Shraga Feivel, Phyllis and Chaim Reese, now in the flesh, in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Avraham, Rabbi Dr. Yankee and Malki Honig, in memory of his sister, Chaya Bas Harav Simcha ben Yamin, his brother Tzvi Aaron Zev ben Harav Simcha ben Yamin, and his father, Harav Simcha ben Yamin ben Harav Yitzchak, and her mother, Sosha Bat Koiner. Be Pizer in memory of her sister, Rivka Bas Avram Michal Halevi. A week of learning by the family of Danny Shepatovsky in memory of their father and grandfather, Daniel ben Aaron David, Marcia Fried and family in memory of Milton, Yitzchak Mordechai ben Avraham, Michael and Judith Koretsky in memory of his brother, Avram ben Gershon. That was corrected finally on this week's. Okay, today we also have a day of learning by Stephen Hamburger in memory of his father, Yosef ben Shimon, by Edie Vigdor in memory of her father-in-law, Meir Leib ben Dov Bear, and it should be Halevi. Okay. I remember that Stephen was Halevi.
Yep.
And Isaac Milstein in commemoration of the Shloshim of his mother, Rivka Bat Moshe Gedalia Halevi. Shamas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Veltishir Shem Aliyah, Kol B'nai Yisrael, a good Kubench.
Oh my.
Is Marty here this morning?
Didn't see him.
Didn't see. He wasn't in show. You did? He wasn't sure. We are should be starting Samich Vav Amud Aleph the Mishnah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, gentlemen, we're gonna pick up, okay, on, with a new Mishnah on the top of Samech Vav Amud Aleph. We've got quite a few Mishnayot here, and in doing so, today we're going to finish a parak again, okay? Okay, I want to point out again just two key underlying themes that we have been seeing. That is number one, that the way the person, the language that the person making the neder uses has a great deal of implications, I'll use that word, in terms of to what degree the neder can, the sage, if he's trying to find a petach, okay, an opening to annul the sage, something. You could say the same situation in different ways, and one might be more available, or one might be more reasonable for a petach, and one might not. Okay? It's not the only example, by the way, okay, that comes up halachically in that situation. Just as an aside, in asking for the issue of abortion, also to some degree can have the same ramifications. How the woman presents the situation makes a difference in whether the posek is going to give permission or not. But in this case, it's that the Gemara is going to give us some situations where, in certain cases, the language of the neder is one way, and or in another way, and in some cases it would be able to be annulled. In some cases, it's not annulled. Second theme, and then we'll jump into the text. Remember, we saw that Rabbi Akiva had a general view, which was if the neder is partially annulled, then it's totally annulled. Okay? Is that always going to be the case? Again, we'll see there are challenges and situations where even Rabbi Akiva is going to say that ruling does not necessarily apply. Okay?
Can you make a neder by writing it, or you have to actually say it?
That's a very good question, Ajay. I would think that that given that the discussions in the Gemara, Nadarim were commonly made verbally. Okay, was an oral statement. And that's why the whole issue of what did the person really say and what did they mean, okay? Because you could have, like I said, we're going to see, could say the very same thing. I vow that such and such is like a korban to me, that, etc., etc. Could be a person. Okay, remember we started out by saying there's a difference between a neder and a shavua as well, going way back to the very beginning of the Masech. Okay, that one may refer to an individual, one may refer to an object. Okay, okay, everybody with me? Okay, let's go. Top of Samech Vav Amud Aleph. Okay, as our new Mishnah teaches, Podchin biyamim tovim v'shabbatot. One might use as an opening to arrange an annulment, okay, the observance of Yontif or Shabbos. How is that possible? Immediately we can think of what happens if the person makes a vow, a neder regarding tasting wine, for example. Okay, let's go in now. Berishona hayu omrim. Originally they used to say, Otan hayamim mutarin. In other words, ushar kol hayamim asurin. Okay, that's our example. If somebody made a vow, I will not taste wine for the following year, for example. Okay, then originally the decision was on Shabbos and Yontif. It was permitted. On the rest of the week, Asur. Okay. However, here comes Rabbi Akiva. Ad Sheba Rabbi Akiva made until Rabbi Akiva came and taught as follows. Here's his klal, which we came across before, right? Namely the following. Okay. Shehanede shehutar miklalo hutar kulo. Okay. That a vow where it's permitted, okay, there is a permission granted within part of it, within the whole thing, the entire thing is now permitted. Okay, Ketzad. Okay, how is it? What example might we have? Okay, says the Mishnah. Amar, the person making the vow says, Konem shani nehene lekuchem. I make a vow that I won't benefit from anyone in this group. Okay, what happens? And, okay, he does not realize that his brother or his father might be included in that group. Okay, what happens? Hutar echad mehen. If he then permits one of them, let's say the brother or the father, hutru kulan, then all of them are permitted. This would be the application of Rabbi Akiva's principle, right? What happens? If the person making the same vow says, She'eni neheneh lezeh v'lezeh, I don't benefit from this one and this one and this one and so on, okay? Hutar harishon, the first one is permitted. Hutru kulan, or then the rest are also all permitted. If he says in making that vow, this one and this one and this one, hutar ha'ach,
Saying
right.
the second one is like the first one. And
In other words, what we see,
he's
what
hiding all
they're
to the
contingent one on the other. Okay, this one and this one and this one.
That's why
Okay.
good for a Rishon, because all of them were contingent on the first.
First, right? Okay, on this one, seriatim, as we would say in fancy English, right? Okay, what happens? Okay, hutar ha'acharon mutar, v'chulan asurin. But all the others are prohibited. Okay, because they were all based one after another. This one won't, this one won't, this one won't, this one won't, this one okay. Then only the last one who's okay is okay. Yeah.
No, you need you don't need no.
Well, in this case, this is based on Rabbi Akiva's klal. In other words, giving other examples where that general rule would apply. No, because they are allowed, they're basing it on his klal, and therefore you would not need a annulment for that particular individual. Right. Okay. Hutar ha'emtza'i. I'm going to continue with what's here in parentheses. If he again it's something seriatim, but the one in the middle was permitted. Okay. Himenu ulamata muta, from him down, in other words, him afterwards would be permitted. Himenu ulamala asur, but anyone, again, that was the vow was applied to anyone before he got to the middle person, there that's prohibited. Again, the person saying the vow, she'ani nehaneh lezeh korban ulezeh korban. Again, notice a change in the language. I don't benefit from them this like a kohen for this one and for this one.
And he says Corbin for with
Right,
respect
and
to
the
each
and the
one.
language, right? The language. Notice as he says, I don't benefit as a sacrifice for this one and as a sacrifice for this one. It's as if he is making individual, right, individual vows against each person. A sacrifice. In other words, you're saying the same way that a sacrifice is hekdesh, sanctified, and you can't benefit or use it. So therefore I'm saying my relationship to this person is like a korban, In other words, I cannot benefit or use anything from that person. That's the parallel. Okay. So what happens then? Says the Mishnah, Tzrichin petach l'kol echad ve'echad. Then he would need to annul the vow for each individual separately. Right. Okay? Okay. Again, the person making the vow. Konem yayin she'ani to'em, shehayayin ra l'me'ayim. I make a vow not that the wine is like a sacrifice for me. In other words, not benefit or use, because wine is not good for my intestines. Now, remember, we saw previously that the Gemara said sometimes when you make a specific condition, if the condition changes, then it's as if the vow is null and void lechatchila. Okay? Not considered necessarily nolad, a new situation, but because you made it on a particular condition. So what happens? Amrulo, they said to him, V'halo miyushan yafel me'ayim. But old wine is good for your intestines. Therefore, says the Mishnah, hutar b'miyushan, v'lo b'miyushan bilvad, hutar, ela b'chol hayayin. Not only is old wine acceptable, but any kind of wine then is acceptable. Why? Because we have to say it was based on the idea that he made it on a specific condition. Okay?
This is Rebbe Kiva, part of another short it's also Hutter Kula.
Right.
Since you
Part
can
of
drink
it,
old
wine, you could
drink all
free
of it.
any kind. Okay, good point. Thank you, Ruvi. Okay, again, konem batzel shani to'en. All of these are examples trying to clarify Rabbi Akiva's general rule, as Reuven's reminding us. Okay, konem batzel shani to'en. I make a vow that onions are like a sacrifice for me, that I will not taste them. Shahabatzel ralalev, because I claim that onions are bad for the heart. Amrulo, if they say to him, Halo hakufri yafelalev, but let's take a certain variety of onion, I'll call them scullions for the moment, are good for the heart. Hutar bekufri, velo bekufre bilvad, hutar ela bechol hatzbetzeli. Not only is scallions permitted to him, that variety, or spring onion, whatever, okay, but any kind of onions would therefore be permitted. Okay? So we finish up. Maaseh haya v'hitiru Rabbi Meir b'chol habitzalim. And not only that, but there was an example of a situation where Rabbi Meir permitted all the onions. Why is that reference there? I'm suggesting to be able to tell us that in examples like this, Rabbi Meir held like Rabbi Akiva's klal. Okay? Now we can go into the Gemara, because we're going to see further situations where maybe Rabbi Akiva would not apply his klal. Okay, it would appear that he holds in this case like Rabbi Akiva. I have to assume that he follows that where Rabbi Akiva would apply his principle, Rabbi Meir would too. Would Rabbi Akiva not apply the principle? Rabbi Meir wouldn't either. But let's see what the Gemara says. Okay. Hutar ha'acharon. Okay, so we come to that example. All right, the last person, contingent on all others, but the last one was permitted. Ha'acharon mutar v'chulan asurin, where we say there that the last person was permitted, but all the others were prohibited. Man Tana, who is the Tana that holds this view? Okay, Amar Rava, this is Rava, Rabbi Shimon he. It must be Rabbi Shimon. Why? The Amar who says, Ad sheyomer shvu'ah l'kol echad ve'echad. Okay, that would be applied until the person made his oath for each individual. So we said where it's an individual, we saw you needed a petach for each individual. But if you made it contingent on one and after the other, then the last guy is permitted. That's why all the others would be prohibited. Okay? Now back to our Mishnah. Okay, he's trying to give an example of where in other situations you would make a vow. Okay, if Bob, if I owed you money, and then we take me to Beis Din, and the Beis Din asks me, "Did you pay Bob back the money that you owed him?" And I would say to them, "Oh, I paid half of it back. I still owe him half." Beis Din is going to require me to take a vow that I paid that half back. That would be under the situation of a debt. That's right. So that's why there's a tendency. That's why there's a tendency for the Beis Din to believe me, but that's why they still require vow.
This is the parsha in the Torah that says if a person deposits money or lends money and the person comes to claim it from him, and he says, "I don't owe you, I didn't, it's not,
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the Torah says you're required to make a shvuah to each one.
Okay. So that's fine. Okay. All right, let's go on now. Konem yayin shani to'em v'chulei. Again, another example. Okay, from our Mishnah, that where we said the person says vow, like sacrifice, not taste wine, and then we get into that whole question of older
Wine
good.
was good.
Okay, so the Gemara has an interesting question here. Vatepukli. So why, in other words, did he have to dealing
Say it
with
was
these?
good. Just say
Okay.
it's
Just
it's
say,
not bad.
in other
It's
words,
not bad.
why did the language have to go into saying, how about old wine? If old wine is good, then why don't you permit off? Why don't you simply, just give a straight out answer and not a whole discussion, a whole rigmarole, okay? Vatepukle, when why doesn't he just demonstrate to him by simply saying as follows, the Ein Ra, that it's not bad. Why do you have to say, oh, old wine is
Because he said the person who made dinner said the wine is bad for his stomach. So if it's not bad,
Right.
just say that.
So now an example. Amar Rabbi Abba va'od yafeh katani. No, he gave the longer explanation because he wanted to clarify not only was
It's
old
not bad,
wine
but
not
it's
bad, but it is good
good.
for you as well. In other words, he wanted to teach two things
Right.
by phrasing the answer that way. Okay? Similar example now. Konem batsel shani to'em shehabatsel v'chule. Okay, same question.
Right.
V'tepukle. So why don't you demonstrate simply by saying as follows? The Ein Ra, that onions aren't bad for you. No, Amar Rabbi Abba, same person giving the same answer. Va'od yafeh katani. No, he wanted to teach two things. Not only are certain onions not bad for you, but they are also, some can be good for you. Okay. All right. New Mishnah. Okay. So we now get into a new Mishnah. Okay. Where our question is going to be finding another possible example or situation that we may get a petach, an opening to annul the vow. Okay. Remember previously we saw that the Rabbi Eliezer, I believe, had said that one could do it, use as a petach, honor or respect for parents. And we saw there was a machloket there between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. Okay, where Rabbi Eliezer said it could be, okay, for respect. And the Chachamim only agreed with him in that situation if the vow was directly applicable to the parents. So now we're going to see in this Mishnah an example again of where a person's honor, okay, or reputation might be a way of using that as a pet. Okay, we continue. Potchin la'adam b'chvod atzmo u'b'chvod banav. We might use as an opening for an annulment, okay, a person's own reputation or that of his children. Omrim lo, we might say to him, Ilu hayiti yodea, shelemachar, omrim alecha, kach hi visto shelplon. Okay, if maybe you're going to say that people will talk about you by saying, oh, this is the habit of this man, that he easily divorces he makes vows, and doing so easily divorces wives. Okay, that if his wife doesn't do something that he wants, he makes a vow, I won't benefit from you, okay, or I won't give you any benefit either way. And therefore, if that's the case, that's remember against the ketubah, and so he has to divorce her. Yes, sir. We're going to get to that exactly. Okay, good point. That's where we're headed. So what happens? All right, that was his habit, right? Migaresh et nashav, and he therefore frequently divorces his wives. Va'al benotayich, and what about the honor due or the reputation of the daughters? Yihu omrim benot grushotein. They might say, oh, they're the daughters of all these divorced women. What they're hinting at, and the Gemara doesn't tell us, is maybe the woman was divorced because there was a suspect that she was a sota. Okay? And therefore,
the daughters
might not be legitimate. That's one option. Or the other option is maybe the woman wasn't brought up as a sota, but she was simply licentious, as the Gemara Art Scroll likes to use. Okay? Flirted or whatever. And so maybe their concern is the daughters will learn that behavior from the mother. And therefore, that's the kind of behavior they'll behave. In any case. Okay? So again, that affects the reputation of the daughters and whether they would somebody would marry them, etc., etc. So the Gemara says, and here there's a difference of lashon. The text I have says, Ma ra'ata iman shel elu lehitgaresh. Okay, but there's other girsa that says Ma ra'ah. Okay, what did he see regarding the mother? Okay, in order that she would be divorced. Va'amar, and he might say to him, Ilu hayiti yodea shekain, had I known that that would be the case, that would affect the reputation of myself, okay, that I would have, okay, or the reputation of my daughters, that they would not be able to get a shidduch, right? Okay, lo hayiti nodeh, hare zeh mutar. Then they would find the petach in order
to use that as a pesach.
Right? Okay, let's go on. Another example. Konem shani noseh et plonit ke'ora. This is what we had the other day. All right? Okay, I make a vow that not like a korban, were I to marry such a woman because she's ugly. V'harei na'ah. But indeed she's pleasant, attractive. Shchora, she's dark complexion. V'harei levana. And here she's light complexion. Kitzara, she's short. V'harehi aruka, but indeed she's tall. Okay, mutar ba, he is permitted to have give her certain things, benefit with her. Lo mipnei shehi ke'ora v'ne'aseit na'eh. Okay, in other words, it's not an example of nolad, is what we were saying, that she was ugly and became attractive. Shchora v'ne'asa levana. She was dark complexion and became light complexion. Kitsara v'ne'aseit aruka. She was short and became tall. Ella shehaneder ta'ut. Why? Because we said it is an erroneous vow.
He
In other
thought
words,
she was this and she
okay.
wasn't.
In other words, he based it again on a certain criteria. It was the premise of the vow was incorrect,
Correct.
and therefore the vow lechatchila is not considered to be a valid vow. If somebody makes a vow while he's totally out of it, like drunk or whatever, would that be a valid vow? What do you think? No.
No.
No. And I'm sure there were vows made under those conditions. Okay? All right? Okay. Now let's go on. This is a great story. Umaaseh be'echad, and there was once an incident. Remember, we always say, when the Gemara cites a maaseh, what is the purpose? To tell us halacha lemaaseh. That reinforces the discussion that it's no longer theoretical. It is simply, there was an incident and that they applied the halacha to the situation. Okay? Umaaseh be'echad shenadar, okay? And there was a situation where a person made a vow, mibat achoto, hanaya, okay? All right, that he did not want to marry his niece. And remember, we've said that was a preferred kind of marriage in those days, right? Okay, well, still some do. Still some do, right? Yeah. Okay, so what happens? Heniya. Okay, prohibited right from benefit. What happened? V'hechnisuha lebeit Rabbi Yishmael v'yifuha. Rabbi Yishmael brought her into his home and he made her more attractive. Now, how did he do that? I want us to see the Gemara here. Amar, no, this is really sharp psychological understanding. Amar lo Rabbi Yishmael, Bani, mizoni dart. Now that you see her, from her you're going to make a vow that you're not going to marry her. Amar lo, love. He says, now that I see her and what she looks like, I don't want to apply the vow. What? We're going to see.
Well, some say Rav Shmuel holds like Rav Loza, that no, that is permitted.
Okay, that's what we're going to see. It may be that
And
Rabbi
some say
Yishmael.
it's not because you could fix the woman up, so
Okay,
it's not.
so we'll
Noah.
see. All right. Vehitira Rabbi Yishmael, and Rabbi Yishmael permitted him to remove the vow and permitted him, and he married. Okay. Now we might have thought Bob's question is good and Ruvain's answer is correct. We might have thought that this could be a situation of nolad, new situation, new case, right? After all, she changed from one status to another, all right? Which would then imply that Rabbi Yishmael does hold, like Rabbi Eliezer, that nolad is a valid petach for an almond. However, on the other hand, the Gemara continues. Ba'oto ota sha'a bacha Rabbi Yishmael v'amar. At that same time, Rabbi Yishmael cried, and he, in other words, and explained and said, Benot Yisrael na'ot hein aniyut menavlatan. That Jewish girls are usually pleasant, attractive, but it is poverty that brings them down, that decays them, that makes them bad. Now,
Really, they're beautiful.
okay, and Art
And
Scroll,
Warren says another place
Art
that
Scroll, right?
that
That
it makes the person
poverty
die, doesn't-
results in a person becoming thinner, and their skin becomes sappy and things like that. Okay, that in essence they're attractive. Okay, anyone who studied, I'm thinking particularly in England, because that's what I'm familiar with. Around the time of the Industrial Revolution in England, late 1800s. Poor girls were sent to work in factories. Okay. And depending on the kind of factory it was, the environment in there, okay, it affected them physically, right? And as a result, okay, that was a problem in that time. So in other words, it wasn't just the time of the Gemara, but even much later, okay, that their skin became sallow, okay, it became thinner. All of these things, okay, had an impact. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. So what happens? Now let's go on. Ukshemet Rabbi Yishmael, when Rabbi Yishmael died, Hayu Benot Yisrael, Nosot Kina, Jewish women would lament. Okay, why? Va'omrot, and they would say, Benot Yisrael al Rabbi Yishmael, Bechina. Jewish girls cry on behalf of Rabbi Yishmael, B'chein hu omer b'shol, and so he would therefore also say,
They would say the same pasuk
Okay.
that was said by Shaul, that he
right,
also
and they would
praised
say
Jewish-
also the same lament as a praise, the same way they praised him for what he did on the behalf of Jewish girls. They would do likewise for King Saul, where it says, Benot Yisrael al Shaol Bechina, that there it's also he had now allowed certain status of women to improve in terms of dress and things like that. Okay, so our Gemara asks the following question. Given this story, this true situation, we said, including Rabbi Yishmael, the store, does this story come to negate what the halacha was? No, says the Gemara. Kasuri mixera v'hachi katani. No, there was something missing, and this is how we have to teach the whole Maisa. All right? Rabbi Yishmael Omer says, Afilu che'ora v'ne'aset na'eh, even if she were ugly and became attractive, shchora v'ne'aset levana, dark complexion, and became lighter complexion, tsara v'ne'aset aruka, she was short and became taller, ma'aseh be'achad, there was an incident with one man, shenadar mibat achoto, who made a vow not to marry his niece, vehichnisu ala beit Rabbi Yishmael, and they brought her into the household of Rabbi Yishmael, v'yefuha v'chulei, and he made her more attractive. So in that second lashon of the story, there it's very clear that Rabbi Yishmael must have held like Rabbi Eliezer, that nolad is a valid petach for annulment. Okay, let's go on now. What are we doing?
Unless you're saying, because he's saying women are beautiful, all the Jewish world look beautiful, and it was the beauty was there at the beginning. He brought it out. He gave her, what do they call, makeover. So since it was there, it might not be no that.
Right.
Okay,
That's what he's saying.
well,
That's what he's saying.
let's go on in the Gemara, and you're going to see, Bob, exactly the situation. Okay? All right, this is a great, I don't think anybody here today is a dentist, right? But it's a great story to share with a dentist. Okay? Tana. Okay, the Braita teaches as follows. Shein tochevet haitala. She had a false tooth. Koren, by the way, has a excellent a picture and an explanation that in those days, poorer people, okay, used to use wood as for false teeth. Okay, George Washington is a good example. Okay, and eventually, what happened? Over time, the wood, right, would decay or would be ruined, and they would have to continue to replace it. So what happens, says our text? Va'asala Rabbi Yishmael, shein shel zahav mishalo. Okay, he paid for her to visit the dentist, and instead she got a tooth made of gold. Okay, interesting enough to see how long ago, okay, that Chazal tells us that they did that kind of situation, right? That's what I said. V'chi shachiv Rabbi Yishmael, when Rabbi Yishmael passed away, patach alei hahu safdana, the eulogizer opened his remarks with the following: Hachi benot Yisrael al Rabbi Yishmael b'china. Woe, Jewish girls, regarding Rabbi Yishmael, that you should cry for him. Hamal b'shechan v'chulei, that ensured that they were eligible for marriage because he dressed them, he took care of them. Hahu da'amar la l'debutayu. And now we get to a new story where a man said the following to his wife: Konem she'iat nehanet, I make a vow not to she'iat nehanet li, I make a vow that you do not benefit from me. Okay, in other words, relations, right? Ad shetat emi tavshilech l'Rabbi Yehuda v'l'Rabbi Shimon, until you provide food, cooked food, for Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Now, according to Art Scroll, her providing food to them was a dishonor.
Yeah, he says it's a zilza cover the Torah.
Right. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to look at Rashi on this, but it's not clear to me why that would be the case.
Benefit for me always connote sexual.
Primarily. Okay. All right. So what happens as we go into this story, and we're going to see a series of stories where the same theme is
Right.
presented, how a rabbi was willing to forgo his dignity in order for the purpose of showing the importance of shalom bayis. Okay, that's the whole rest of the parak. Okay, so what happens? Rabbi Yehuda ta'im, Rabbi Yehuda went ahead and tasted the food. Okay, right? Amar, he says, kal v'chomer. This is a kal v'chomer example. Umala asot shalom bein ish la'ishto. Amrat Torah, Shmi shenichtav b'kedusha yimache al hamayim hama'aralim. Whereas we know that the Torah deliberates in a manner that says that the divine name may be erased in the bitter waters. In other words, that's the case, the example of the Sota. If the Torah says that, and the divine name can be erased, how much more so should I, the Kal Vachomer?
That's the suffix, and that's only a doubt on me where I can.
Right, the suffix, and that's the question of a doubt. All right, Va'ani alachat kama v'chama, and I, when this was clearly based on the vow of the husband that he would divorce her if she didn't feed me, and I want to keep shalom bayis, I'll taste it. Okay. But what happens? Rabbi Shimon lo ta'im. Rabbi Shimon did not taste it. Amar, why? Because what did he say? Look at the case. Yamutu kol b'nei almanah. All the children of this widow will die. In other words, he cursed not only the husband, but also indicated what children they might have might die early. Va'al yazuz Shimon mimkomo. And Shimon should not be moved from his place. In other words, the honor due to Torah scholars should not be degraded. That was his view. Okay? Va'od, and furthermore, but would notice there's a question of whether that applies. Another, ki hechi delo l'targule lemindar. Okay? Why we say? Okay, because here,
he didn't want people to make.
He did not want people to get comfortable or regularly in the practice of making vows. Right? The lo l'targule lemindar. Okay, new story again. Hahu de amar l'debeitayu. Again, a person said to his wife, Konem she'iat nehenetli ad Shetiroki bo b'Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. I make a vow that you will not benefit from me like a sacrifice until you spit at, I'm going to say, or on Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay, what happens? Atat v'rakak al bushe. She came and she spat on his garment. Amar le Rav Acha midifte.
And Rav Shimon Matar.
Okay, and in that case, he did. Could be. Okay.
Really wouldn't be a vow.
Okay. Well, remember you said that people make vows in anger. We don't know. Could be. Bob, what was your?
You can't make a nether against the Torah. And if this would be against the Torah to degrade someone, then it would be null and void.
It could be. But the implication here is, okay, again, you're giving the example that we saw with regards to the ketubah Mishnah we saw the other day, that he's required to have relations with her by the ketubah, and is that the petach? Here, the Gemara is not focusing on the issue of petach, but on the issue of rabbinic honor and the willingness of some to give it up for the sake of marital harmony. Okay?
Rabbi Green.
Yeah.
Rabbi Shmuel, the Torah goes at great lengths to avoid death. Even at it says you're even allowed to desecrate Shabbos to avoid someone dying.
Right.
But here, Rabbi Shimon says he would rather have these people, the children, die than desecrate his honor.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, all it tells you is the kind of guy Rabbi Shimon was. Okay? Right? You can have two, that's what the example is. You have Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda was willing to forgo his honor, his reputation, for the sake of Shalom Bayis. Rabbi Shimon was not. Okay? All right. Now, so
He held his honor was more important than desecrating Shabbos.
Yeah.
The
Torah's honor. He felt it was the Torah's honor, and that's why I might argue, I wouldn't say argue, that's why I might suggest that when the Gemara has here this question of Lashon Va'od, Ki hechi delo l'targele l'mindar, that could have been added later into the Gemara by a later authority. Okay? Right? Remember, Ravina and Rav Ashi were the ones who basically edited, for the most part, the Gemara. But following them, there were two generations of scholars known as the Saboraim, okay, who were the ones who actually finished their work. And this could have been that kind of a situation. Yeah, right? Okay, so we see now, okay, regarding this example of the spittle on Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's garment, and as Ruvain reminds us that he was matir, that vow, okay, there's a question asked about it. Amar le Rav Acha midifte the Ravina. Okay, now remember, Ravina's sort of, okay, what happens, right? Vaha, he says, but in this case, hai v'ziluta kamichavein. This was done as an act of degradation to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. How could
the
you?
husband wanted her to spit on Rabbi
him.
Shimon, not on the clothes.
Right.
So why did he master the nether?
Right. So
and
what
more
happens?
answers.
Amar le mirak amane de Rabbi Shimon Gamliel ziluta ravtahi. Ravina's answer was, even simply, I'm saying, spitting on his garment was an act of degradation, an act of showing dishonor. And that's why Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel could be matir the vow. Text doesn't tell us. That's the implication.
That's the implication.
He allowed her to fulfill the vow. That could be the other one. Right? Okay, let's see. Another case. We get more and more stories. Hahuda Amar la ledebetayo. A person said to his wife, Konem she'iat nehanedli. I make a vow that you'd like a sacrifice to me, that you don't benefit. Ad shetir'i mum yafeh shebiech the Rabbi Yishmael Rabbi Yossi, until you show something, and the word here mum supposedly means something. Normally it's a fall. You look at Art Scroll. Art Scroll
Right.
gives a explanation where it cites other examples in Tanakh where the
Right.
word mum actually is for some aspect, something, right? You have to show something, okay, beautiful of yourself to Rabbi Yishmael Rabbi Yossi. Okay, now we're going to get the whole story. Okay, now remember, if tzniut is a value, right, modesty, what is she going to be able to show him? Okay, that's the question that I asked. So therefore, as the Gemara continues, Amar lahem, he
So
said,
people came and told this to Rabbi Shmuel before she came, and now
Right.
he's asking
so they
them.
said to him, Shema Roshana, perhaps her head is pleasant. Amrulo, he told them. Then he saw her. Sigal gal, her head is rounded, unusually round. Okay, all right. Shema Se'arana, perhaps her hair is nice. He's answered, right? Dome la'anitse pishtan. Her hair is like bundles of flax. In other words, it's all over the place. Okay. Shema einehana. Perhaps her eyes are pleasant. Terutotain. Her eyes are easily understood either unusually round or narrow. Okay. What is your
That's
what is
round.
round?
like
They go with
lips.
round. Okay.
Right.
All right. All right. Shema aznehanaot. Perhaps her ears are nice. His answer, fulotain. They are double the normal size. Okay. All right. Shema chotmana. Perhaps her nose is pleasant. Bloomhu. Her nose is closed or stubby. Shema siftotehanaot. Perhaps her lips are pleasant. Avotain. Her lips are thick. Okay. Shema tzavarana. Perhaps her neck is pleasant. Okay. Shakutu. Her neck is thick,
It's short.
right? Sure. That's also. Okay. Shema karisa. Maybe her stomach is pleasant. Savahu. Her stomach is bloated or swollen. Shema regaleha naot. Maybe her legs are pleasant. Rechavot keshel avazi. Her legs are wide like geese. Okay. Shema shmana. Maybe her name is pleasant. Lichluchit shema. What's her name? Lichluchit. Okay. Dirty. By the way, in modern Hebrew, the story of Cinderella in Hebrew is translated as Lichluchit. Okay, the
Really?
children's book. Yeah, Cinderella is Lichluchit, right? Yeah. Okay. Amar lahem. What did he say to them? Yafeh korinota Lichluchit. The name fits.
The name fits her. The description he was talking.
Shehi meluchlechet b'mumim. Why? Because she is full of. Here's where we might get flaws. Chayim, right? Okay. Vishaya, and he permitted. Okay. Now let's go on. One more story. All right, and then we'll finish up. Hahu bar Bavel. There was a certain Babylonian young man, Besalik la'ara Israel. He went and traveled to Israel, the land of Israel. Nasiv itata. And he married a young woman there in Israel. Okay. Now, what happens? Amarla. I sort of think of these stories like, the rabbis needed to entertain themselves. So, somebody was a comedian and he told,
But this is also language barrier.
yeah, that's what this story is. What happens? He tells his wife, Bishili li tre talfe, make for me 2 lentils. Okay? Bishila le tre talfe. She cooked for him specifically only 2 lentils. Ratachala. He got angry with her, probably because he was hungry. All right? According to Artzno. Lamachar amarla. The next day he said to her, Bishili li griyua. Make me a large measure of lentils. What happened? Bishila le griyua. She made him a large measure of lentils.
More than he could
So
ever eat.
much, right? More than he could even eat. Amarla. Another day he said to her, Zili aite li tre butsine. Come and bring me 2 melons. Azlat va'aite le tre shrage. She went and brought him 2 lamps. Apparently the word
Butsine
butsine
means shrag, lights, and also means
lights
melons.
and melons. Okay. Amarla, he said to her, Zile tavre yatun al reish de baba. Go and break these lamps on the entrance to the doorway. What happened? Have yativ bababa ben buta ababa. There happened to be at that doorway, one of the scholars, Ben Buta, was sitting there,
His name is
Baba Ben Buta,
Buta.
and he was judging a case. Vikadaim Dina, and he was involved in judging a case. Azla, she went. Vitavrat Yatun al Reshe, she went and broke the lamps on his head. Okay. Amarla, he said to her, Mahadin Davarit, what did you do? Amrale, she said to him, Kachsivani Bali, this is what my husband commanded me to do. Amar, he says to her, At asit ratzon ba'alayich, you fulfilled the will of your husband. Hamakom yotzimi mach shnei banim kebaba ben buta. May the Almighty then bring forth you 2 children that will be scholars like Baba ben Babuta. Okay, Hadran Alach Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, so there was a little lighter pieces there in the Gemara. Exactly, they come there to tell us the lesson that to what degree the Chachamim were willing to forgo